I know I am not the only one that has ever walked up to my yarn stash and just totally stared at it for like 20 minutes to a half an hour and walked away and still not had a clue what to do. Or maybe you've got like 6 tabs of patterns open on your computer and you still can't figure out which one to do. Well, I just wanted to touch base real quick because I think we've all been there before, and this is the second video in a short series I'm doing where we're talking about some kind of common issues that knitters and crocheters and fiber artists all kind of face. And what I want to tell you today is that this doesn't mean that you're lazy or you can't focus or that you necessarily have ADHD. It just means you could be suffering from decision fatigue. Let's talk about it. A few ways decision fatigue shows up for fiber artists are if you hear yourself saying things like you're tempted to start a new project even though you've got quite a few whips going, you don't know what colors, you're too overwhelmed with color choices to pick something out and get started for the project. You may be struggling on what weight of yarn to use for it. Should you use fingering weight or sport weight? Should you use DK or worsted? You want to make a shawl, but should it be a triangle? Should it be a rectangle? Who knows? These aren't related to a motivational issue or a character flaw or anything like that. The simple definition of decision fatigue is the more decisions you make, the less effective and the worse your ability to make decision gets. Meaning that every choice you make during the day actually adds up and takes a toll. And this is even more common in people who are juggling a lot of different roles, like your roles as a parent or grandparent, maybe your role at work or employment or volunteer, if you're a caregiver or if you have health challenges. All of these things add up to more decisions you're making during the day. And then in a creative hobby like knitting or crochet, there is an infinite amount of decisions that we can face. So this is definitely, how do I want to say this? We're definitely kind of pre-programmed to have this issue. So if you have something called stash freeze, where you find yourself looking at your yarns but not using them, not being able to decide on any particular yarns for a project, and then buying more yarn, that could actually be an indecision issue. Like you are having trouble making that decision. You are fatigued already and you just are struggling to make that choice. You might have pattern overload. So if you are downloading every single free pattern that comes your way instead of actually working on the patterns you already have or the patterns you've paid for, that is another indication that you're in that fatigue mode. The one I'm super guilty of is whip avoidance. And that's where I know I don't want to have to make a decision about a particular object. So if I don't finish it, I never have to make that choice. And I am speaking specifically about, I think, 3 whips I have that are all out of the same yarn. I'll link the video for it up here, where I realized I thought I was procrastinating, but I'm not. It's because I love the colors of the yarn. I don't like how they worked out in the projects. So therefore, if I finish it, I'll have to decide what to do with it. And I'm probably not going to want to keep it. So whip avoidance is probably number 1 on this list for me. Can you relate to that at all? If you are spending more time planning your projects than actually working on your projects, that is also another good indicator that you are suffering from decision fatigue. Or if you start feeling like nothing sounds fun, if there isn't a single project or a single yarn that piques your interest, this could also mean that it's decision fatigue. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to be done with this hobby or that you need to find something new. It could just mean that you need to work on that fatigue. So how do you get out of decision fatigue? One thing you can do is have a limited menu. So I think a good way to describe this is I do a lot of my grocery shopping at an Aldi store, and they private label, like pretty much everything is their brand. It's not like where I go into a larger grocery store and they have 20 brands of pickles. If I go into Aldi, there's, you can have sweet pickles or you can have dill pickles. That's what your choices are. And I immediately know, and I grab the dill. It just makes it so much simpler having that limited stock to choose from. So you can do this by picking out a small handful of yarns that you love, that maybe you've worked with in the past, you've worked with that fiber before, and you'll love them. Throw them into a bin and have that be where you go to first. Same way with patterns. Pick a couple patterns and have them nearby so that when you are ready to start a new project, you have that limited supply of patterns and yarns to choose from. All of a sudden, instead of having 200 patterns and 200 yarns to choose from, you might just have 3 or 5. It's going to make it much, much simpler. And then don't second guess yourself. Just go with it. So have a list that you can go to of projects and yarns that you absolutely love working with, and just have it on a little piece of paper as a reminder. And I think a good way to describe this is like having a comfort project. So I know there are tons of people like me, and sometimes when you're feeling a bit stressed or whatever, you like to have a particular like comfort show or comfort movie where you can watch it and kind of zone out. There aren't going to be surprises because you've already watched The Office 100 times or whatever your particular show is. And it's one of those things where you can predict it and it is not causing an additional strain on your emotions or your mentality at all. And you can do this with projects as well. Right now, my comfort project is the German shells or virus shawl. And I am working on that, and I am altering it in a few different ways, and I'm making a few different projects out of it. And I'm really enjoying it because I know I love the stitch. I love how it turns out, and making a few modifications, I can get a different project out of it, but I still know that it is not going to be stressing or taxing on me. I'm not going to have to make more decisions when I do it. If you are a person that gets overwhelmed with your patterns, start out by focusing on the yarn. Find a yarn you really want to use. Look at the weight, look at the texture, look at the fiber content, and say, what would this be good for? If your answer is a cowl, then go straight to your cowl patterns and just work from there. That's a great way to limit things with still having a ton of options. One big thing that I have had to do is to really reduce other life decisions. And this was before I really realized it was playing a part in my creativity and all that. I have to, in the mornings, I struggle. I struggle with decision fatigue. The later in the day it gets, the worse I am at making decisions. And so I start out the day not making decisions. I pick out my clothes the night before. I have them downstairs and ready to go. I have the coffee pot ready to go. I have, my tote bag packed. I have this stuff ready. So those are all like a good 1.5 to 2 hours where I don't have to make any decisions. I know what I'm making for breakfast. Like all of that is ready. I've got my lunch planned out. It's already pre-made in the fridge, things like that to help me be more successful during the day. And, I know mine is kind of extensive. You might not need to do that many things, but reduce some of those decisions you're making. I find it's not really that hard once you get in the habit of doing it. And then the last way that you can really help get out of a decision fatigue is to really embrace the fact and understand that there's never going to be a perfect yarn for a perfect pattern. Sometimes we make things that we love. Sometimes it doesn't turn out quite as great as we would want. And that is just something you really need to take to heart instead of putting it in a category where you think it has to be perfect. That's so much extra pressure on yourself to find the pattern or find the yarn for the pattern when hey, I might love this, I might like it, and be okay with that. So if anything I want you to take out of this video, please know that if you have felt any of these things, if you have done any of these things, there is nothing wrong with you inherently. It is just part of the human experience, and you are definitely not alone. I would love to know if you have any tips or tricks for reducing your decision fatigue. Let me know down in the comments. I think it's helpful for everyone. Or if this is the first you've ever heard of it, let me know down below too. I'd be curious just to know, like, have you been feeling this way and haven't had a name to put on it? If you are enjoying this short series, I've got another video coming your way, and it's on creative paralysis. And I know that sounds kind of similar to what we just talked about, but it is different, I guarantee it. So that will be out next week at the same time, and I would love it if you would join me and talk a little more yarn with me. Bye!